Adoption is beautiful, but there are definitely some things I wish we would have prepared for a little bit more before we brought our baby home. I definitely would say one of the things I wish we prepared more for was the wait. Um, we have been told by consultants, agencies, when we start this adoption process, our wait would be a lot quicker, mainly because we're a biracial couple and we were considered a hot commodity, especially for birth moms. And so I think for us, we kind of had the expectation that the wait would be a lot sooner than what it was.
Right, and it turned out to be a lot longer than we thought. And we thought, well, certainly, having had children before and waiting the 9 months and all of that, that this was going to be less than that, and it actually turned out to be more than that. So I guess with all that to be said, when it comes to the wait with adoption, it's just going to vary, and there is no telling how long your family's going to be waiting, or you or your family's be waiting for a baby. That could be it could be really fast, like they're saying, or it could be much longer, like in our experience. It's just going to depend on a lot of factors. Um, there's there's a number of things that go into how long someone can wait.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd say probably one of the larger ones is if if you're not open to certain situations. A lot of times when you tell an agent, if you're working with an agency, for example, and we say to them, well, we only are wanting a child with this, and this. It's got to have specific, like the mother had to have prenatal care. Well, there's a lot of birth mothers that in their situations aren't able to get the prenatal care, and so those doors are closed to you. Those babies wouldn't be presented to you.
Yeah, I mean, so that was one thing that can definitely delay
Yeah.
you bringing your child home. Other things to think about that you don't really have a lot of control over is how fast the processing of your paperwork can be.
Right.
You have to go through home studies, drug testing, background checks, and that's a process in itself, and it can take time. After that, the mom still has to say yes. So even though you finish all the requirements, the mom still has to pick you and say yes. So now you're out of that particular season of the wait. Now you're in a new season. Mom says yes, and now she has to have the baby. And so, obviously that takes time. And so you're waiting for her to go into labor. Then after she goes into labor, you have to wait a certain amount of time based on your state for the
Yeah, revocation period.
revocation
Yeah.
period. Some states might have 2 days, some might have three, and there are some states that are up to 10 days as far as the wait period. So now you're waiting again. And then you get to bring home your child, and they're still waiting. You have to wait for termination of parental rights. You have to wait for the finalization in court. We're almost there. Now you have to apply for birth certificate and social security. So one thing I definitely wish we would have prepared more for was the wait. It can be long, it can be short. Having no expectations and just kind of going in open minding and just know, hey, it might be some time is the best thing I would suggest.
Another thing that we wish we would have known a little bit more about ahead of time was the difference between consultants and agencies. So our agencies they work with the birth mothers. So they're the ones who go out, work with birth mamas to help find a home for their baby. The consultants work mostly with the adoptive parents to help them find the baby. Sometimes when you work with an agency and the agency doesn't have enough people with them that are signed up, or that their baby doesn't fit the criteria that the parents who have signed up with that agency have said that they'd be willing to adopt, they'll reach out for agencies to help find a broader network of people to try to find placement. And there's different fees with this too when it comes to consultants, right? You
Yeah,
can talk a little
so,
about that.
kind of tying all together, when you hire a consultant, you pay a consulting fee. That gives them access or gives you access to multiple agencies across the United States. So you pay your agency fee, you pay consultant fee. So you got both if you decide to work with a consultant and you work with an agency. Then you have to think about the other fees. So if you're working within either or the agency or the consultant, there could be birth mother expenses. If your mother has not delivered yet, there might be expenses that you need to pay for her housing, for her clothing, for her food, for her transportation. There's also traveling expenses. If your birth parents happen not to be in the same state, then you have to think about traveling expenses to get to the particular state that they'll be delivering in. There's an ICPC fee. That just means transferring from one state to another is something that has to take place legally. If you're taking a child out of a state that's not your own, then there's lawyer fees that you have to pay as well. So taking everything into consideration when it comes to choosing a consultant and an agency, researching them both to kind of see what would fit best for you. They both have some perks. I would definitely say we worked with consultants because we were thinking at the beginning, wow, that gives us opportunities to have our baby sooner because you're pulling from all these states. Well, not all states allow you to work with consultants, first of all. So you definitely want to make sure that you do your research ahead of time to see if your state even allows for that. At the end of the day, I think that if we can do it all over again, we would definitely have chosen to do the agency first. Our agency was fantastic. They loved on our birth mother. They loved on us. They're very informative. Their prices have stayed the same for the last 20 years, and they are nonprofit. And so, in hindsight, we wish we would have just signed up with the agency and had stuck with them.
Another thing that we wish we could have known a little bit more ahead of time was that there's options with adoption when it comes to the relationship that you are going to have with the birth mother. Right? There is some want what's called an open adoption, where they've got the ability to see the pictures, have some kind of communication with you. Have maybe they want regular communication. It's something that's kind of got to get agreed upon, earlier on when we're deciding that that baby's where they want. You're the family that they want the baby to go to.
It's open adoption.
Right.
It can be birthday parties. It can be regular play dates that you have with that birth mom. It's a really open relationship. They're an extension of your family, which is, an amazing blessing, especially if that, birth mom is, willing to, wanting to, healthy enough to, all those things take into place. And then next is the
like a semi-open. Maybe they just all they're looking for is I just want to have a letter and maybe some pictures. However, the time frame is for that, once a month, once every 6 months, whatever that may look like. And then there's the closed adoptions where hey, the adoption's finalized, this is done, and the birth mom really just wants to move on in life after that. So they're basically asking that we don't have a lot of that kind of communication. We felt that with our adoption, we were really hoping that our child's birth mother would be open, and has been open to communications after the adoption's been finalized. And this is really important that I felt from having seen my own sister who we've adopted. She grew up and wanted to see her mother, and getting that chance to go do it just was an important piece of her to be able to go and actually meet her birth mother. And it's been that with the same way with some of our friends who have also came up from being adopted. It's just, I think, a natural response, and I feel like it's healthy for the baby to be able to have some sort of relationship or have some acknowledgement of where he or she came from.
Yeah, we've spoke before about how joy and grief can exist at the same time. And I think this kind of really hits there because, yes, you might be bringing a brand new newborn home from the hospital and they're happy, they're cooing, you love on them, and it seems all perfect. But there is trauma. They have been adopted from their own biological family. And we have to recognize that. It may not show signs of that now as an infant or toddler, but as they get older and they start asking the questions and you answer those questions, there might be just a little bit of hurt, not understanding why it happened, what took place. And so that is something that we have tried to prepare ourselves for, letting our child know, hey, yes, you are adopted. Mommy didn't grow you in her belly, but I love you very much. And your mom, your birth mom, loved you very much because she had created an adoption plan for you. And she did that out of love. Kind of talking about those things ahead of time really kind of helps future. And so, we prepared by reading books to kind of help us with that particular situation. Having 5 biological children is a little different prep, I would say. And then also with not just that, with our other children, our oldest will be 21 here, and we brought home a baby, and the biggest gap is like an 8-year gap between our newest and our once was the baby of the family. So sibling changing, things like that, family dynamics change, and definitely preparing ourselves for that ahead of time was helpful. Did we do enough of it? I think we did. I think we did a pretty good amount, but definitely just kind of prepare yourself for like the educational piece, the emotional piece, and kind of also what helps is the community base. I would definitely say having a community definitely really helps.
Yeah, community in the sense that like maybe it is your extended family who's like super supportive of you, or maybe it's your best friend. Our own personal experience with it didn't always come from family that was always the most supportive. There was actually when we came to fundraising. Yeah.
I think that's something that we were not prepared for.
Yeah, we weren't ready for that.
Having friends and family that have been with you your entire lives, always support you and everything, but when it came to the adoption piece, we didn't have a support that...
It's like they didn't understand.
They didn't understand. And you know what? It was fine that they didn't understand because we were called to do an adoption. We were called to care for an orphan. And our calling wasn't their conference call. They may have not been called to foster or adopt, and that's perfectly fine for them. But letting them, if they would have just text us or sent us a message or a prayer, that would have meant the world to us. But having people go silent and not be supportive, it was a hard one. So finding your community that are supportive of it, they don't have to donate if you have a fundraiser, but that they walk that path with you, that you can talk to them about it and feel heard and seen is very important. Talking to people that have walked your shoes, like are walking in your shoes. That was a big one for us. Like we talked to people that have gone through foster care, who have did private adoptions, open adoptions, closed adoptions,
international adoptions. We talked to everybody,
and it was really important to hear their story, hear their experience. I think that right there is gold. If you can have a community that's there for you, that's been through the same thing that you're about to go through, it definitely really helps with this journey that you're on.
Yeah.
There were some long waits, some hard moments, and some hard truths that we had to come about during this journey. We questioned our faith if this was something that we were even meant to do. We had already parent, 5 biological children. Did we really want to start over? Were we supposed to do this? But at the end of the day, I'm so glad that we did. I really am.
Yeah, and we're really glad that we chose this. And we would, knowing what now we know, we would still choose to do it again. If you guys have any comments and you've been through this process or going through this process of adoption, feel free to put them in the comments below.
Have a blessed day, guys.
Thank you.